Our next speaker is Gordon Nuttall. The title of his talk is Crowd Courage, the Power of Many for Public Safety. Gordon is CEO and founder of Couragent, maker of the FlipPal mobile scanner, a local company. His wife and spiritual partner, Karen, is the founder of Authentic Soul Integrated Reiki. Welcome, Gordon.
Hello. Well, there's been two streams of thought that I've been working on. Over the last couple of months, I'd like to share my experience with you about that. And they're somewhat unrelated if you think about them at the start here, but maybe by the end it'll come together. And one of them is, the crowd violence that we've been experiencing, with Sandy Hook and other places around the country, and also the power of crowds. We hear about crowdfunding and crowdsourcing and all of those things. Well, I have a real strong passion around what's called crowdfunding, because my company is raising money from individual investors through small contributions that then add up to a pretty good sized chunk that really represents a big chunk of money. And the slides aren't the ones that I sent.
Wing it.
I will wing it. So don't pay attention to the slides, but it's all about crowdfunding and the way to raise that money instead of using angels or venture capitalists. Very exciting. It can revolutionize the way that we fund small businesses in the country. And then I read this quote from Gary Zukav, who writes those books about authentic leadership, and he says, he blogged this one day: "Every experience offers an opportunity to respond to my feeling of outrage over gun control or gun violence with fear or with love." And I go, Gary, I get it. Isn't that like small acts of kindness that we give to people and simple things that we can do every day to make a difference in our life? And just having an attitude of gratitude? That's sort of the power of crowd, right? We all put that together. And then this other stream of thought that I've been having is all about crowd violence, and we hear about this, but that could be Fort Collins. Aurora's not that far from here. And neither is Sandy Hook. Those are schools that might have happened, right? What would I do if I was in that situation? Well, there's a couple things I could do, which would be just become prepared, maybe become part of an organization in my company that is emergency preparedness. And I could fashion that for my company. I could be more prepared. And one of my first responses was about how violent our society is. And I could put the blame on the media or the people that are manufacturing violent games. But we have the ability as crowd consumers to not buy that stuff. And another first reaction I come up with is, isn't it the government that's supposed to keep this place safe for all of us? President Obama, what are you going to do about this? And so there's this legislation going through about gun control, and I could get in a lot of trouble right here about this. But let me just say that if, with a reasonable amount of due diligence and checking my background, maybe it takes me a week or more to be able to buy that gun, wouldn't that be worthwhile to save a couple of lives? We also call upon the government to reach out to those who are mentally ill and staff up our mental hospitals. But again, isn't that something that we all can do? To reach out to those people that are maybe disassociated from their society and bring them back in. And we want to certainly beef up our school security and the first responders. But at Sandy Hook, they did a lot of things right, and it still wasn't fast enough. And this is where the concept to me about crowd courage comes in, which is we, the citizens and the crowd of Fort Collins, that community in northern Colorado, we can do something when we put all of our courage together as a body. So we can do those simple things like reaching out to other people, and they can add up to a lot just by themselves. But we have this pushback, which is that courage thing, isn't that really for somebody else? Isn't it best left to the experts to do that? I have fear. But we do have fear, and all of us have fear, and that's an appropriate emotion. What I've learned about courage is that it's the ability for courage to master fear that we are also divinely inspired to have. And so we can do that. We can reach out and overcome our fears with courage. And there's an author in Fort Collins, his name is Gus Lee. He wrote a book called Courage, the Backbone of Leadership. And he wrote one thing that was very inspiring to me. He said, courage is an act of caring for other people. And I use this symbol to say that cœur, which is French for heart, It says that courage really comes from the heart. And these things started to tie together for me then, which is we can take our heart and act with courage to counteract some of these acts of violence that are going on. So the concept here is crowd swarming. Instead of cowering underneath a table, and I get an opportunity, if this were to happen in Fort Collins and I'm there, how about if I just reach out and tackle the guy and then have everybody else swarm him and pile on? Wouldn't that be a great response to that act of terrorism? And the Flight 93 people, the people that crowd swarmed those pilots or the terrorists, what an inspiring story that is, how we can create safety individually by acting with courage. And I'd like to leave you with that, which is we do have a choice. We can act out from a base of fear and do things that maybe blame other people, but we also have the ability to act out with our courage and make a difference because courage comes from your heart. Thanks.
Thank you, Gordon.